following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on.
We're live.
We live. So welcome to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports, presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. Actually, Dustin, I want to phrase a question to our new friend, Bishop Bullwinkle. Bishop Bullwinkle, do you need a press pass to talk sports?
Whoa. Hell no. To the no, no, no. Hell to the no. Hell to the no. To the no, no, no.
I totally stole Snowman's bit.
That one, well, that is a classic. I first heard about that on your Mom's House podcast a few years ago. Shout out to Tom and Christina. I know you're both watching.
I know we're big. We know you're big fans of the podcast.
Yeah. We keep
and also the Bert Kreischer. Hope you're enjoying your
we
Kool-Aid
keep our
while you're
jeans
watching
high
the show.
and tight. We keep our jeans high and tight on this podcast. But that's where I first discovered the magic of Bishop Bullwinkle. And let me tell you, if he gets into the full song, the tenor changes a little bit. But the part that you played is the chorus. That's a recurring motif throughout the song.
And Snowman says, beautiful. Before we go into tonight's episode, we talk about everything that went on this week in the NFL. Let's talk about our social media challenge. You can find right down here if you're watching on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ. And if you're watching on YouTube, it's YouTube.com/@NoCredsREQ. If you're watching on either Facebook or YouTube, smash it. Smash that like button. I'll have to make an overlay for that, but smash that like button. We appreciate
the like button, ring the bell as well, so you know when we go live.
Indeed. And also, if you're listening on the audio side, subscribe to the podcast. Megaphone is our home base, but you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio, wherever you podcast. And if you leave a rating, 5 stars is the preferred number of stars to leave for the podcast. And also, if you'd be so kind to leave a review. We'll even read it on the air. And Dustin, I know you've been waiting all weekend to hear that sound. Gotta play that beautiful bean footage. That's right, folks. Whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, which is our main three channels to where we stream, engage with the show. Leave your comments. We want your comments. We've already got some folks watching right now. We got Snowman saying he's the first in. Thank you for joining us, Snowman. Also got Kevin Wilson from Belly Up Fantasy Sports. This is right behind the Snowman, and a fellow Seahawks fan in Seahawks Brotherhood.
Yes.
For Dustin. So without further ado, let's get things started and talk about this weekend's games. Start with Saturday afternoon's matinee game. Jaguars I couldn't say matinee. You can say late afternoon game. Jaguars at Chiefs. This was a very surprising game, and in many ways, because you had Patrick Mahomes go down with an injury.
Yes.
You had a little bit of everything. Not necessarily everything in this game, but you had some interesting things going on. So, Dustin, what was your feeling about this game, and what were your observations?
Well, first off, I'd like to say that this was surprising because this ended up. I mean, we didn't know it, but in my opinion, this ended up being the most entertaining game on the slate.
You're telling me.
Yeah. And I just have to say, first and foremost, I know we've been very complimentary to the Jaguars on this show. Hey, shout out Schmitty. Thanks for watching. I appreciate the compliment. But
Thanks for engaging with us, Schmidt.
Yeah. So anyway, the Jags, we've been highly complimentary to them on the show, and with good reason. They hung with the Chiefs, and it was not just because of the Mahomes injury. The Jags showed that they were not afraid to play with the Chiefs. And in my opinion, they exposed the one Achilles heel that I think the Chiefs have. Their defense, as the Chiefs' defense, as you astutely predicted, Stradamus, was very opportunistic at just the right times. They got sacks when they needed them. They got the INT at the end of the game.
Hold on, I have a sound effect for this.
All right. Perfect.
My clairvoyance knows no bounds.
It's true. I'm a little concerned. But anyway.
Oh, geez. I forget these are on loops.
my thunderous vocals here. Anyway, I will say the one weakness that I think was exposed in this game was the Chiefs' special teams. The Chiefs' special teams is not looking good, and it's to be expected because when you have as much talent on both sides of the ball as the Chiefs do, you gotta have a deficit somewhere. And to me, special teams is where the Chiefs are lacking. Jamal Agnew shredded them multiple times on special teams with chunk returns, despite the fact he had a fumble later in the game. But from the Chiefs' side of things, the Jags hung with them all game. They didn't get blown out. The Jags defense managed to somewhat shut them down in the second half. Now, how much of that was due to the health of Patrick Mahomes, we don't know. But I will say Chad Henne, he saved that game for the Chiefs, and he really impressed me.
You know what's interesting? I mentioned yesterday I was on Snowman on the Coffee with McCarthy segment on Snowman in the morning, 8:35 on Monday morning. Catch it. You can go ahead and catch that. But I said, if it wasn't for Chad Henne, you would not see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl in 2020, and you might not see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and advancing into the next round after this week. And he should be held in Chiefs in this era, in this Mahomes Reed era. You can't leave out Chad Henne, who was at one point laughed at as a starting quarterback in the NFL, but then he goes to Kansas City, finds himself as a backup to Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in this particular era, and he saved the Chiefs season not once, but twice in the span of 3 seasons. So you got to give a ton of credit to Chad Henne. And again, you can't laugh at his career because of the fact that he saved the Chiefs bacon multiple times. Multiple times.
I mean, Mahomes goes down, and Chad Henne is 38 years old right now, which in normal age terms, Chad Henne is younger than me. But in quarterback terms, aside from Tom Brady, who's got that 80 for Brady movie coming out. I know we're all rushing to the theater to see that. I won't be.
Yeah, I'm going to be first in line for my ticket.
Yeah. But anyway, aside from Tom Brady, 38 in quarterback years is ancient. He comes off the bench and leads the Chiefs on I believe it was 90, something like a 92-yard drive in a playoff game with high stakes. And I mean, he gets the job done. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, Dustin. I barely watched a look of football this weekend, and I had no FOMO. But I caught up on the highlights. I caught up on the highlights of just about every game except for Giants and Eagles, which we'll get to in a moment.
I DVR'd that game.
Yeah. By the way, I'm accountable to every Eagles fan. I have to give you something. Here's your receipt for not picking them. Dumbassery on my part, but no, I mean, I caught up on the highlights, and yeah, like you said, Dustin, the Jaguars went into Arrowhead. There wasn't a lot of expectation. You thought maybe after they went up 10 in the second quarter that this game was going to be this game might get away from them, but they didn't. They get the field goal right before the half. They got within 3 with that touchdown, and they had. Yeah, I got to say so. I went to a hockey game on Saturday afternoon, and my brother and I were listening on the way home. We're listening to the Sirius satellite, and he had both feeds, both the Jaguars and the Kansas City Chiefs radio feed, and the contrast was striking because after the Chiefs after Butker kicked that field goal, that long field goal to put them up 10, the first play from scrimmage for the Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence gets sacked. And you just hear the voice. You can just. I'm gonna kind of mimic this a little bit. You can kind of see the play-by-play announcer just kind of look at the field goal, and Lawrence goes back to pass, and Lawrence gets hit. Lawrence gets sacked. That was his. Like he sounded so depressed. Meanwhile, you switch over to the Chiefs, and they're like this is the fourth quarter. It's time to, and all 3 announcers go, put the hammer down. Like they're excited. They're enthusiastic. Every one of them. And the Jaguars announcer on that drive, I got to give full credit. I got to give full credit to the announcers of the radio network for the Jaguars. When the Jaguars scored, the play-by-play guy lightened up. Like he lit back up. He's like, touchdown Jaguars!
Yeah.
Like, oh man, we have had quite the mood swing in this drive. Interesting. So, but yeah, no, I mean, you got to give full credit to Doug Peterson. He knows he's from that coaching tree, Andy Reid coaching tree.
Yep.
And he knows his coach well. But at the same time, Andy Reid right now is Andy Reid's the master.
Yeah.
He's the master. He knows how to, and Patrick Mahomes, give full credit to him for gutting it out in the second half. I know, as someone who has had trouble with his ankles for primarily the most of his life. It's tough to come back from it, to play through a high ankle sprain. So, now they're going to the championship game, and they got a rematch with the Cincinnati Bengals for
and let me just say,
Super Bowl.
We all know this, but Travis Kelce is a cheat code when the Chiefs get near the end zone. I mean, they just always manage, Mahomes and he always manage to find each other, and then he in turn gets into the end zone. It seems like he's been doing it forever. Freak athlete. And it's not quite Patriots level with the Chiefs. I mean, I just got to the point where I was sick of seeing the Patriots in the postseason at all. I'm not there with the Chiefs. They are just good. And I'm sure that we'll see old Travis Kelce do the Double J strut at least one more time in the playoffs. Who knows?
Unless you think this is a Kansas City Chiefs sweatshirt. This is an Under Armour sweatshirt. I got 50% off at Kohl's. It was a big sale going on.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we're going on to the next game. That would be Giants at Eagles, and big swing and a miss on my part. I thought the Giants would. I had the audacity to pick the Giants. That was a bad idea. Good thing I don't bet. But this was this game I caught up on the highlights. And halfway through when the Eagles went up 28-0 at halftime, I was like, all right, I guess I know what happens from here. So I clicked the back button on my browser. I'm like, all right, let's see what else is see the other highlights from the other games.
Like I said, I was over hanging out with some family on Saturday, and so I DVR'd the games. I'm like, I got to do my podcast prep. I need my beautiful mind notebook here. I need it. So anyway, I DVR'd this game, and same deal, Ryan. Once the game got underway and it was clear that it was going to be out of hand, I started fast forwarding some chunks, but I still watched the majority of this game. First of all, the chain broke early in the first quarter. I don't think I've ever seen that in a game before. And it was just an omen for the Giants season. I'm sorry to say it. The Eagles we thought that the Giants and it's not just you. I picked the Eagles to win, but I thought it was going to be 33-30. I thought both teams were going to be, chucking it all over the yard, doing everything. I thought Saquon was really going to go off. He did have a nice 40-yard run at one point in the third quarter. The Giants rushed the ball decently. It's just the problem was that the Giants defense, Philly was dominating them, and they were running the ball right down the Giants' throat. It didn't matter whether it was Boston Scott, whether it was Jalen Hurts, whether it was Kenneth Gainwell or Miles Sanders. All of them ran well. Kenneth Gainwell didn't start running the ball for the most part until the third quarter. Guess how many yards Kenneth Gainwell finished with rushing?
112.
That is correct. And he did most of that
line right now.
Yeah, he did most of that in the third and fourth quarter. He was gashing the Giants. And if my memory serves, Devontae Smith had some big catches in this game, but their big acquisition, A.J. Brown, he was almost invisible on the field, not because he didn't play a good game or anything, but it just shows how many different ways the Eagles can hurt you. If they can run the ball like this against the Niners, which admittedly is going to be a much tougher task, watch out, because the Eagles are going to fly during that game if that's the case. That was, and I hate to say it, Dable, you and I have both been saying that he's probably our front runner for Coach of the Year. He did an amazing job with the Giants. I think the Giants have a bright future, but it was not their time. It was not their time.
Yeah, my bald and bearded brother Brian Dable. Excellent job, but unfortunately, he ran into a literal buzzsaw in the Philadelphia Eagles. And here's the thing with I was like, this stat I heard, I think it was during the highlights that I heard. Boston Scott has 11 touchdowns in only 8 games against the Giants. He's a literal giant killer.
He has, I believe that I heard a stat now. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm doing this from Dome. I don't have this in my Beautiful Mind notebook. He has 19 touchdowns within, I forget the period that it was over. I think it's over a couple of seasons. 11 of them. 11 of his touchdowns during this period are against the New York Giants. That's crazy. That is crazy. And ironically, the name, Boston hurting a New York team once again.
Yep, as ever. And the one thing I totally forgot about this game was the Eagles' defense is leaps and bounds better than the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because they made Daniel Jones look like Daniel Jones from the last 3 years we've seen him. They did not look at the Daniel Jones we saw last week when he picked apart the Vikings. They made him look like Daniel Jones before Brian Dable came along. Yeah. And poor Saquon Barkley. And it's going to be interesting to see what the Giants do in the offseason, because they got to keep they have to keep both these guys. They're going to have to franchise tag one and hand the bag to the other. Like they're going to have to extend Daniel Jones. They're going to have to extend Saquon Barkley. I think what will happen is that I'm going prognosticator again, Dustin.
All right.
Just let you know, and I'll play that effect again. It will end Daniel Jones, and they'll franchise tag Saquon Barkley. Because there's going to be a number of teams going after Saquon Barkley in the offseason. And one of them we're going to talk about in just a moment. Before we do that, we got to share a message from our friends at Invader Coffee. This episode of No Credentials Required is brought to you by Invader Coffee. For the coffee lover who wants good, quality coffee with no bullshit and no filler, Invader Coffee is an ultra-premium, veteran-owned coffee company proudly delivering only the best coffee your hard-earned money can buy. They aim to only serve the highest quality organic, air-roasted coffee beans sourced from free trade farms all over the world. They keep things simple. The best coffee at an affordable price in order to provide you with the value you deserve for your morning boost. 100% fair trade, 100% organic coffee beans, 100% air-roasted, 100% money-back guarantee. Visit invadercoffee.com, enter promo code BELLYUP at checkout, and receive 15% off your order. You heard that right, folks. Link in the description, whether you're listening on the podcast or you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Funny story. During our live broadcast on Friday, I ordered their Valentine's Day blend, Chocolate Lust. It came in the mail on Monday.
Oh, that's some service.
That's efficient, my friends. That's like the infantry coming down and like literally putting the bag on your front step.
Yeah,
it came that fast.
And I do like I gotta give a shout out to whoever handles packing up their orders and everything. Usually get a nice little handwritten note or something.
Yep.
It's a nice touch.
It is a nice touch. You got that personal service at Invader Coffee. So yeah, if you want to help the show, order some coffee. At the link in the description, use code BELLYUP at checkout for 15% off your order. You won't be disappointed. You won't be disappointed. Both Dustin and I are big Invader Coffee fans.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So next game we're going to talk about is the Bengals at the Bills. Dustin, this game. Wow, indeed. And I don't know if you heard the news today about I don't know if it was a radio station or fans of the Buffalo Bills saying that the Bengals had an unfair advantage because of their white uniforms.
Oh, jeez. No, I did not hear. You are grasping at straws at that point. You're not even grasping at straws. You're grasping at the straw wrapper for that one.
Listen, as a New York Jets fan, tried and true, thick and thin, at least we don't make up those kind of excuses when we see our team lose.
No, that's oh, gee. I mean, the Bills, and look, both you and I picked the Bills to go to the Super Bowl out of the AFC at the beginning of the year. We both did it. And the Bills, to their credit, for most of the year, the Bills look like the class of the NFL. But man, on this day, they did not look like themselves. I mean, this Bills defense, the Bengals O-line, which we had many jokes at the expense of them early in the season because they were letting everybody hit Joe Burrow. Well,
come on in.
This game, yeah, they were a turnstile. But
they're a turnstile.
This game, first of all, we've talked about how the O-line, their play solidified late in the season. And it's one of the reasons why the Bengals got hot at exactly the right time and went on a great run. But man, the Bills, I was watching this game. Now, full disclosure, I was working while watching this game. So I had my trusty iPad set up right next to me. I'm watching it. The Bengals were pushing the Bills pass rush off the line. As a result, there were huge running lanes. The Bills just the Bengals ran the ball all over the Bills in addition to everything they were doing. Now, the Bengals came out fast. They threw on 6 of their first 8 plays. They went right down the field and they scored. And it was at that point that I believe it was Jim Nantz, because I think he and Romo were calling the game. Mm-hmm. Jim Nantz said that the Bengals outscored their opponents 32-0 in the first quarter over their last 5 games. That's the Bengals like to get out to a fast start. And I will say, when it looked like the Bengals were just going to track meet all over the field, and side note, I love Tony Romo saying that the Bills, it was going to be tough for Bills players to gain their footing due to the field, and he's like, the defenses, it's going to be tough for both of them. The Bengals looked all right that entire game. They seemed to have no problem. But I will say the Bills did have a nice responsive drive. They kind of slowed the game down. When the Bengals came out, they had a nice long drive, which ended up in Josh Allen running barely into the end zone. But from there, that was the last thing Buffalo could muster. The Bengals they ran the ball. They did everything they needed to do in the snow to go up to Buffalo and get the victory. Buffalo just looked out of sync for whatever reason. It's the only way I could describe it. I have written in my notes. It says Buffalo does not look like themselves. No first downs till 2:11 left in the first quarter. They just looked out of sorts, and we all know Stephon Diggs seemed to be jawing at Josh Allen as the game was getting close to the end in the fourth quarter. Hey, he's a competitive guy. It's playoff football. It's highly emotional. I don't think there's anything to be made of it, but heartbreaking loss for the Bills. But the Bengals looked poised to take on anybody right now. I'm looking forward to this Bengals-Chiefs game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I remember somebody saying on social media that when Diggs was having that, I wouldn't say meltdown, but just a guy trying to fire up his team and says, oh, this is the same scene we saw Diggs do when he was ready to get out of Minnesota. And it's like, no, he's happy in Buffalo. So
yes,
one thing I'm looking at the stat line. I give full credit to both the defense of the Bengals and the offensive line of the Bengals.
Oh yeah,
because guess who was the leading rusher again for Buffalo?
I'm gonna go with Josh Allen.
You would be correct. 26 yards on 8 carries. Cincinnati as a team had 172 yards. Joe Burrow had 31 rushing yards. He had the longest run of the day. He had a 21-yard run.
Yeah.
And he was sacked only once.
Yes. I mean, it was unbelievable. This vaunted Bills pass rush, which obviously everybody's got injuries, everything. You had mentioned the vulnerabilities in the Bills secondary, and it was another game where that showed up to rear its ugly head. But the Bengals didn't need that. Once they got out to that fast lead and they went right up and down the field on that first drive, they just ran it. And I'm telling you, Ryan, if it was visible to my uneducated eye, I said, this offensive line is destroying them off the ball. The Bills are getting nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not usually one that focuses on offensive line play, but it was so glaring that it jumped off the screen to me. I'm like, the Bills are unable to get pressure right now of any kind. It was unbelievable. Great performance.
Now, I'll also have to give myself some credit here. Who said that the Cincinnati defense played well as a unit and would also get turnovers opportune time?
I hear thunder rumbling. Nice. It is. Yes.
You know what's funny? I downloaded that before the show.
For those of you who are wondering, yes, we are going to run this bit into the ground. Go on the journey with us, won't you?
I can hear some people saying this right now.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Listen.
I'm going to get a copyright claim for that, but I don't care.
Yeah, we might get a strike.
We're not getting a strike. We're just getting a claim. That's all. YouTube, the wait. Anyway. Anywho, moving on. Cowboys at 49ers, the last game of the weekend. And like you said, Dustin, the Jaguars and Chiefs was the most entertaining game of the weekend. But if you like defense, if you love defense, you would have loved this game. Because both teams were smacking each other around, smacking each other in the mouth all game long. And it was, as someone who loves defensive football at times, this was an exhibition. And Dustin, I want to hear your thoughts about this game. What struck out to you in this game? What observation did you have that you just kind of circled in your notebook?
Well, I have to say the big thing that really jumped off to me was now I do feel for Cowboys fans. I do feel for Cowboys fans, but I initially going into this game, I said Dak's going to have to play the best game of his life, which he clearly did not. But I said Dallas's defense is good, but they're not on the level of the Niners. Well, for this game, they were pretty darn well evenly matched. That's what jumped off the page is that I think now I knew that Dallas's defense had performed well all season. Everybody knows about Micah Parsons. Everybody likes to talk about how well he plays the game, how he can take over elements of a game. That's all true. But Dallas's defense hung with the 49ers for the majority of this game. They played their hearts out. You got to give it to them. You got to take your hats off to them. They were incredible. The gap, I thought the gap was much larger between San Francisco's defense and maybe Philly's defense is like here, and then there was the Cowboys, and then everybody else in the NFC. And coming out of that game, I said maybe it's more like this. That's how well Dallas's defense played. And we've seen other defenses, namely my Seahawks, now vastly inferior unit to Dallas on defense. But Brock Purdy, people might say, well, Brock Purdy's a rookie quarterback. It might have been a different game if Jimmy Garoppolo was in there. Dallas might have struggled to stop him a little bit more. No, I don't think so. Brock Purdy has proven that he knows what he's doing when he's out there. He doesn't get rattled. And Dallas really came to play. And the tragedy, and I hate to say it. I hate to say it, but Dak did what we thought he might do. You said that if Mike McCarthy had to rely on Dak Prescott to win, they were going to be in trouble. And I said Dak Prescott played his best game of the season, unquestionably, against Tampa Bay. He silenced a lot of the haters, but I said Tampa Bay's defense is not San Francisco's defense. He's going to have to play even better next week, and he just wasn't up to the task. I mean, on the one interception he threw, I don't think he saw the defender there at all because the defender jumped right in front of Michael Gallup. Or if he didn't see him, the defender just jumped the route really well. Because that interception was a bad interception. I will tell you that.
So, Dustin, which handsome podcast host said on Friday that if he took away the Dallas's run game, you're going to have to rely on Dak Prescott and he was going to mess up?
Rise for Dallas. We got to get you like a hat or something. Some sort of. I'll ship a crystal ball to your house. We'll do something.
In the words of Chris Jericho, I'm a freaking wizard. Speaking of which, so I'm going to give a list of what has gone on and what has been released since the Cowboys were last in a conference championship game in 1996. So the first two, I got to give credit to my buddy Cole Johnson from Snowman in the Morning with Cole Johnson. Biggie Smalls and Tupac were still alive.
Yeah. Justin
Bieber had not been born yet.
Yeah.
And I got more. The hybrid car has been introduced. The iPhone was invented. Chris Jericho, we just mentioned about him before, releases his list of 1,004 holds. Bar. Movies were still on VHS the last time the Dallas Cowboys were in a conference championship game. Blu-ray, DVD, and digital were not even a forethought. And YouTube has been, since the Dallas Cowboys were last in the conference championship game, YouTube was introduced. And you can also you can actually check out the glory days of the Cowboys anytime on YouTube. They're just not right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, Kevin Wilson with the big comment. I retired from the Navy for one thing.
Oh man. Man, it's amazing when you think about it in those terms because it's not like Dallas has had. I mean, they had some bad years. They just had some plain bad years. I mean, the Dave Campo years. I don't think Cowboys fans remember that with any nostalgia or anything. And I will say, the play is still talked about in Seahawks history when Romo bobbled the snap. And I think was that 06? I think it was. He bobbled the snap and Marquand Manuel.
I think Bill Parcells was still was the head
Yes,
coach.
Bill Parcells was coaching them at that time, and old Marquand Manuel, he's a Seahawks legend for that. You know, it's they've had some good regular seasons. Their hope springs eternal for every football fan at the start of each year. But I feel like Cowboys fans, there are fan bases who have suffered longer, but Cowboys fans, they get more fired up than anybody if their team starts like 6-0, and then it just something always happens. It's unbelievable. And for the people that are calling for Mike McCarthy's job after this loss was not his fault. It was not his fault. There was nothing that I could see that he did while coaching this team that was like that you could point to be like, oh, well, that's the reason they didn't. At some point, I think it was either Keyshawn or Max Kellerman from ESPN. One of them said at some point the players have to make the play. He said Mike McCarthy did not throw those interceptions. You know, all the people calling for Mike McCarthy, I think it's a little now Jerry Jones may let him go because we all know how Jerry can be, but I don't think it was Mike McCarthy's fault on this one.
And great bounce back game. I just want to say this though, Brett Maher, great bounce back game. You thought he was going to have some more misery when the 49ers blocked their extra point, but he was still 2 for 2 on field goals.
Yeah.
So, and I guess they wouldn't let him warm up during warm-ups, trying to get into his head. But
yeah,
let's get away from the Cowboys for a bit. They're always the thing is with the Cowboys, they're always in the news because Jerry Jones somehow has them in the news cycle he puts them there. Mm-hmm. But let's give some credit to the 49ers.
Oh yeah.
And their defense. And also give their special teams. Because Ray McLeod, he had only one kick return all game long, and it was 53 yards, which helps set up a score for the 49ers. Offensively, they were okay. They didn't listen. The 49ers didn't have to be great on offense to win this game.
No,
we all kind of knew that coming in based on Dan Quinn, and I think Dan Quinn should get some head coaching consideration after the last 2 seasons. The Cowboys have been very solid on defense.
Yeah.
Should get some consideration for a head coaching job again.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, and you have to wonder too. You have to wonder because I can't get inside of Dan Quinn's head, but it had to do a number on him because, I know as a Seahawks fan, Dan Quinn's a great defensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. He's still, we had that run where, I can't think of his name. First name, Gus. I want to say Van Zandt.
Gus Bradley.
Yeah. I was like, Van Zandt's the film director. So obviously Dan Quinn takes over the defense after Gus Bradley leaves to coach. I think it was Jacksonville. He got offered the head coaching job there. He went there, didn't work out. Dan Quinn takes over the defense, and the Patriots come back on the Seahawks and win that Super Bowl because Pete didn't run the ball. I don't want to talk about it anymore. But that was a Dan Quinn-led defense. He takes the head coaching job in Atlanta. The Atlanta Falcons play very well. They get to the Super Bowl, and then those darn Patriots, a Dan Quinn-led defense, once again gives up, I think it was the largest comeback in Super Bowl history, maybe, that 28-3 halftime lead.
Not that we don't hear about it every other day
Yeah.
from Patriots fans.
Yes, of course. That had to do a number on Dan Quinn. So you know what? I think that Dallas was the perfect landing spot for him, and he's got this defense turned around. And I think yes, he's probably learned from that little coaching run there, and he's probably become mentally stronger. I think he should and will get another head coaching shot. If Josh McDaniels can get another shot, Dan Quinn can as well.
Yeah. And yeah, it's 49ers didn't have to play, their offense didn't have to play great. Kevin, please don't talk about that anymore.
I know. We stay away from it. But sometimes, hey, it's just
as I mentioned, the 49ers didn't have to play great on offense. They had to do just enough. They got the touchdowns. They got the scores when they needed to score. They got that dagger of the field goal with, I guess you could say, seconds remaining. But let me just verify that real quick. Well, Robbie Gould gets the field goal, puts them up 7. And again, the 49ers forced 2 turnovers. They did this last year when they played the Cowboys in the wild card. And they forced the issue on Dak Prescott. And when you can force the issue on Dak Prescott, your defense is going to play well and you're going to win games.
Yeah.
Now, Friday we'll have our previews between the AFC and NFC championships. I believe the NFC championship is the first game and the AFC championship is the second game this season. So, but we'll preview both games on Friday. We'll have an extended time for that. And we're going to talk about some other things going on in the NFL. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break to talk about our friends at Mohawk Honda. It's in Glenville, New York. Listen, it's winter in the upstate region, capital region. We've had some snow lately. We're getting some more snow tomorrow. And if you're driving a bad car, you're gonna get stuck. But even though the season's changed, the one constant is a buying experience at Mohawk Honda, where you are greeted with a smile and you're treated with respect. The new inventory is still ramping up. More pilots, more passports, more Ridgelines. That's right, four-wheel drive, all-wheel drive cars get you through that snow. And remember that this is the best time ever to sell your vehicle. They buy cars, and in some cases, you may be able to sell it for more than what you paid for it. And it's just another advantage you get from the #1 volume dealer in the capital region. General Manager Greg Johnson and his team of sales consultants are always available to help you in the buying process. And they have big news. Scott Moynihan is back at Mohawk Honda. He brings his 30-plus years automotive experience with him. Stop by and say hello to Scott. Also, say hi to my guy, Evans Whalen. He got me into the car I'm driving, which is a 2016 certified pre-owned Honda HR-V. Yes, the season's changed, but at Mohawk Honda on Freeman's Bridge Road in Scotia or online at mohawkhonda.com, they always go out of their way to please you. Let's talk about some of the stuff that's going around in the NFL. And the first thing I want to talk about, I heard this on the Rod Peterson show this afternoon, so shout out to Rod. I guess what's going on is that the NFL is supposedly looking into playing conference championship games at neutral sites. Now, this is all based on the initial sales success of a potential Kansas City Buffalo game in Atlanta. If the Chiefs and the Bills had advanced to the next round. I guess they sold 50,000 tickets at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Wow. Now, I don't know if it was between both Chiefs fans and Bills fans. I know that there's a pretty big contingency of Bills fans in the Atlanta area. But also, there's also Chiefs fans there. You could get, if you go to any big city, you'll find a contingency of fans from other regions. So Dustin, I just want to pick your ear here, pick your brain here. Do you think the NFL should switch over to not only a neutral site Super Bowl, but also neutral site championship games? I want to get your thoughts on that.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Oh, wait. No. Well, actually, let me ask Bishop Bullwinkle. Should we have neutral site championship games?
Hell no. To the no.
Okay. So your answer is hell no.
No. And here's why. The Super Bowl kind of makes sense because it gives, that way everybody can go. Well, first of all, they like to do it in warm climates most of the time. That's no secret.
Or a dome or a covered stadium.
Yeah. And also the Super Bowl has more, like, the Super Bowl is the main event. So it gives people time to make a weekend out of it, book hotels, go into the thing, and I don't know that it's 100% true, but it makes it feel like both teams are on an even playing field regarding fan support. Like, everybody's got an opportunity to buy. For the Super Bowl, to me, it makes sense. But for the conference championship games, the team that is the number one seed earned the right to have home field throughout the playoffs. So if the number one seed or one of the higher seeds, if you did a neutral site for the NFC and AFC championship game, to me, it kind of one, it takes away from the atmosphere a little bit because one of those teams earned the advantage through their regular season to have more of their fans or whatever. And this just doesn't make sense to me, and it reeks of a money grab attempt by the NFL, and it reeks of an attempt to capitalize on a situation that had never occurred before. And to me, it just kind of it's got a bit of a skeezy feeling to it. I don't like it. I don't like it. The Super Bowl, it makes sense, but my gut instinct is I'm with Bishop Bullwinkle on this one. Hell no.
Yeah, I'm going to sound very old codger, get off my lawn-ish, but I agree. No, we should not have neutral site conference championship games because to the cynical mind, it might seem like a money grab because it is. Let's be honest. It is a money grab. And I already have one Super Bowl. I don't need 3 Super Bowls. I mean, come on. This is what they're going to try and gussy it up I think what they're trying to do is like they're trying to take a page out of the conference, not the conference, the college football playoff, where you have teams play in neutral sites at bowl games. This past year we had TCU and Michigan at the Fiesta Bowl, and then we had Georgia and Ohio State at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. So I think part of it is based off that success because, listen, fans of teams will travel anywhere. However, I don't like that we're trying to take away from the team that earned home field advantage or the team that's the higher seed. If we had neutral site championship games, fans from KC would have had to travel anyway if Buffalo had advanced too. But you're talking about a rabid Philadelphia Eagles fan base. And I say rabid in a loving way. I don't say it in a begrudging way because I'm not a fan of other teams in their division. But like our buddy Jared has been on, and shout out to our buddy Jared from the Corner Booth podcast. He's a big Eagles fan. I think it would be very tough to move the championship game from a site like Philadelphia. Like if you let's put it this way, if you earned your right to the home field advantage, you deserve home field advantage. That's the way it's always been in the NFL. And for the owners to say, oh, there was 50,000 ticket sales from a neutral site game for a championship game. Let's try to figure out a way to get this and get more of this bread. It's like, no. And where's the player share? Let's put it this way. If I'm DeMaurice Smith, who is the executive director of the Players Association, I would be asking, where's my share? Because if this is the owner's idea and it's just a big money grab, how do the players, where the players, what advantage do the players have? Do they get a cut of the revenue? Is it 25% to one team, 25% to the other team, and then the rest of it goes to the NFL? The players have to have a say in this too. You can't just have the league ownership. You can't just have the league, can't have just the owners go, all right, we're going to do neutral site championship games from now on because based on what happened in a hypothetical and what was basically a hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
No, we just got to have a say in this.
Yeah, of course. And you I think also hit the nail on the head in an angle that I didn't come at it from. But not only the team has earned the home field right, the home field advantage, and with that comes the opportunity to sleep in your own bed, the opportunity to be at your own house. And you talk to any pro athlete, that makes a difference, and that is something that they will play for. And you take that away from them. And that is not fair either. It's just no.
Not only that, but you're also adding you're also putting on added travel for an unnecessary reason. You're taking away an extra ticket that the fans paid for a championship game. And you're just adding more costs to your own bottom line and to the fans' bottom line. And I mean, we've already got an economy that's kind of stagnant at the moment. Some people are having a tough time paying to keep the electric on in a really bad winter. So this just adds more costs to the player on their physical side. The bottom line on the balance sheet of the owners for the rest of the year, and fans can't. If I'm if I'm a fan on the West Coast and I have to travel to the East Coast or the Northeast or the Southeast for a neutral site championship game, that's going to cost a lot of money. Because not only are you paying for a hotel room, you're paying for a ticket to the game, you're paying for a flight, car rental, food expenses. That's a lot of money.
Parking.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Parking. Yep.
No, it's unbelievable. And, and also, hey, people might call me out right now, but I don't care. I will tell the story. A site makes a difference. Now, when the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl against the Denver Broncos, do you remember where that Super Bowl was, Ryan?
Happened to be at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey.
That is correct. And I remember multiple people asking me at the time, aren't you going to go see the Super Bowl live? This might be the only opportunity. Like, you never know when your team's going to be back there again. And I said, no, I'm not going to, for 3 reasons. 1, I don't make enough money to get Super Bowl tickets.
Right.
2, maybe if the game was in like Miami or someplace I wanted to be in February. I live in New York in February. I know how it could be. So I don't want to sit outside in the game. Okay, maybe I'm not that hardcore of a fan, but I did not want to be at it. I did not want to be at MetLife in February watching the Super Bowl. And lastly, and this is just me being real, if the Seahawks had somehow lost that game, I would have then had to drive home pissed off. Like there's no like it's not always cut and dry. A site makes a difference to some people. Or maybe how many times do you hear the stories? Oh, my grandfather's a fan of such and such team. He's been watching them since he's 10 years old. He's 92 years old right now. We'd love to take him to the game. You think they're going to take him to the championship game if it's in if he's like a Falcons fan and they're in Georgia and the Falcons are in the championship game? It's being played in Chicago. Surprise. You think they're going to take that? No.
Look, as good as some of these, as useful as some of these public transportation methods are, no. If I'm a Jets fan and the Jets finally see another playoff appearance and go to the AFC Championship and they decide to play at SoFi Stadium or AT&T Stadium, no, I'm not spending my hard-earned money just to fly somewhere else to see the Jets play another team.
Yeah.
Unless it's the Super Bowl. Yeah, but I'm not doing it for a conference championship game. It just takes away having conference championship game at a neutral site takes away from the spectacle that is the Super Bowl.
Yes.
There's a reason why the Super Bowl is the most
It's-
watched television program every single year.
Mhm.
It's the pageantry. It's the halftime show. The halftime shows have been huge over the last 25, 30 years.
Yes.
It's the two best teams playing for the biggest prize in the NFL. And this having a neutral site championship game cheapens the majesty that is the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Cheapens it.
And it just reinforces that the conference championship games are not the Super Bowl. And let's not, I mean, there's other sports. I am not a huge fan of this, but I have friends that are. They're huge NASCAR fans, and I've watched the opening of Daytona before, and they always try to make it feel like a Super Bowl. They have big musical performances. They have everything. And guess what? Maybe it's because I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, but I'm like, this doesn't feel like the Super Bowl. It feels like they're trying to imitate the feel, but nothing can match the Super Bowl. Nothing. About the only thing that I think that I could draw parallels to in the sporting world is, and I don't know that these are on this level anymore, but huge boxing fights used to feel like, people would gather together and they'd order the pay-per-views to watch the fight and stuff. Oh, we got the fight tonight. Come on over. But that still wasn't the Super Bowl.
My dad saw Mike Tyson knock out Leon Spinks at a bar on closed circuit television back in '86. That was a big thing back in the day.
Yeah. But even those, nothing is the Super Bowl. Nothing.
No. The World Series, not the Stanley Cup, as much as I love the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Jeff says the World Cup, but that's different. It's a difference. That's different.
Yeah, that happens. That's almost comparing apples and oranges. I mean, I get what you're saying.
He says not even a soccer football fan, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we have one more thing to cover before we leave the show, tonight's show, and I got to address this as a New York Jets fan. Joe Namath, I wasn't sure where he went on, but he said in an interview that if Aaron Rodgers is traded to the Jets, and we all know the Jets looking for a quarterback, Woody Johnson said as such during the basically the State of the Team address after the season ended. The Jets have been linked to a number of quarterbacks, Derek Carr, Lamar Jackson, and Aaron Rodgers, who happens to wear the number 12. Joe Namath has gone on record and says, if Aaron Rodgers is traded to the Jets, you can unretire my number, and I will take, and you can have number 12. So Dustin and I had texted back and forth yesterday, and I had to mention this, and he happened to mention that yes, that there have been numbers before that have been unretired that other players have used. Dustin, you have one for example.
Yeah, well, the most recent example that I can think of is, I think it was 2004 season, or maybe it was 2003. I can't remember the exact number, but Jerry Rice came to Seattle to play, and Steve Largent did say to the Seahawks, you can unretire number 80, Jerry Rice. He's number 80. In most stadiums, anywhere else in the league, if you think of 80, like you think of Jerry Rice, but in Seattle, 80 is Largent. Mm-hmm. And Largent did allow the Seahawks to unretire number 80 so that Jerry Rice could wear the number. But to me, this one's a little different because, I mean, Steve Largent is a face of the franchise in Seattle, but he is the greatest wide receiver in Seahawks history. I mean, hell, when he retired, I think he had like pretty much all the wide receiving records that you could have in the NFL. I'm going off the dome. I love Steve Largent, but to me, this doesn't have the same feel, though. This just feels different because Namath was the unquestioned face of the Jets, and I don't know. I just feel like it may mean more. I don't want to cheapen, because I thought it was kind of a class move at the time. I was like, that's pretty big of Steve Largent to, allow his number to be used. But I kind of have a different feel on this one. But I am not a Jets fan, so I want to see how you feel about it.
I wouldn't mind. See, because part of the reason why is because I never saw Joe Namath play growing up. My dad saw him. My dad watched him. My dad loved Joe Namath. He said the only two quarterbacks I've ever seen that have had the quickest releases I've probably ever seen out of a quarterback's arm are Joe Namath and Dan Marino. Those two, just at the flick of a wrist, could just release the ball, could go yards. So he watched Joe Namath as a teenager and an adult. I never saw Joe Namath play. I remember the Monday night game back in 1986 when they had retired Namath's number. I remember that game, or was it 1985? I think it was 1985 that the Jets finally retired his number. He's one of only a handful of Jets to have their number retired. And for Namath to say, yeah, if Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the Jets and he helps them win a Super Bowl, you could absolutely have my number. Absolutely take it, because certain quarterbacks you associate with certain numbers. You're always going to associate number 13 with Dan Marino. The number 16, Joe Montana. Number 12, a myriad of quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers being one of them. And Aaron Rodgers has a Super Bowl ring under his belt. So for Joe Namath to say, yeah, you can have my number if you wind up getting him. And from what I'm understanding, the Packers have gone on record and said, if teams want Aaron Rodgers, you're going to have to fork up a first round pick to get him, at least one first round pick to get him, just because he costs so much. He's making $40 million. So, but for a Hall of Fame quarterback to come out and say, yeah, if you get traded here, absolutely take my number. It speaks to Joe Namath as a person, as an athlete, and as a guy who is synonymous with the New York Jets. He helped them win their only Super Bowl title in team history in a huge upset back in 1969. So, yeah, for a legend to say, absolutely take my number. If you get traded here, you could have my number. That speaks volumes to who Namath is as a man.
The kind of person he is, yeah.
To show that kind of humility is huge. He's huge. If he could have said, yeah, absolutely no. He has to wear number 8. He has to make because that was Aaron Rodgers' number in college was 8. It wasn't 12. He only wore 12. I think he only wore 12. He's only worn 12 in the NFL. But when he was at Cal, he wore number 8. And if you had to wear number 8, he would have to give Elijah Moore a whole lot of money, put it that way, or buy some dinner for him. But no, I mean, it's very humbling for a guy to somebody to say, yeah, absolutely take my number. If he wants my number, you can have it.
Yeah,
I'll gladly unretire it. And if he brings the Super Bowl to the Jets, because the number 12 seems to be the magic number right now. That's the number that has won the most Super Bowls. Roger Staubach, Bob Greasy, Terry Bradshaw, Tom Brady. I'm trying to think who else. Aaron Rodgers. Trying to think who else who number 12. I'll figure it out. The 12 and 13 are the two numbers associated with a large number of success in the Super Bowl. So yeah. And Jeff says, personally hoping Rodgers to Miami. Unluckily, but wow, weapons Miami has with a quarterback that can stay healthy might be a 1 or 2 year good fit Super Bowl. I'm going to say this, Jeff, with what money? Because right now it's tied up in 2 guys. It's tied up in Tyreek Hill and Brandon Chubb. Tied up in 2 guys. So if Miami's going to have to get a quarterback, they're going to have to cut a lot of weight or try to convince both those guys to restructure their contracts. That's going to be a big undertaking for some of these teams, but that's
Two
my
more.
feeling about it.
I was looking up the list of quarterbacks to wear 12 because I felt like there was one that we were forgetting.
I think there might have been one.
Kenny the Snake Stabler.
Kenny Stabler, yes.
He's the other one. I will throw Jim Kelly. I know he didn't win the Super Bowl, but we all know that he went to some. That's for darn sure.
Went to at least one.
Yeah.
And Jeff says money under the table. Not that happens. Yeah, the salary cap might be a myth. We don't know.
Yeah, but I thought, I have to say you kind of turned me around on it because I was kind of like, yeah, but Namath feels different to me. But really it's not. I mean, Namath is an icon for the Jets. He is synonymous with the underdog all over, in all sports. Everybody says whenever a team is down, what do they say? They say, "Oh, Namath and the Jets beat the highly favored Colts, Super Bowl III." Everybody knows that. So I guess that's why it felt a little different to me, but after hearing you talk about it, it's no different. Both Namath and Largent when he did for Jerry Rice, both of them classy guys, moves. And for Joe to do it, it's even because as much as I love Steve Largent, as much as I love, and I didn't see him play either, but he's the Seahawk that you learn about, especially in the lean years when the Seahawks were not very good. Steve Largent was the name that you always were told about by other Seahawk fans. Well, I wish you could have seen him play. He was unbelievable. But it just, oh man, I kind of lost my train of thought with that. It's live, everybody. It's live. but yeah, class move by Joe Namath here. To me, I was going to say, now I remember, I would argue that Joe Namath was more well known than Steve Largent was. So to me, this felt like a bigger deal, but it's a class move by both guys. But let me ask you this though, Ryan, as a Jets fan, we've talked about it some, but knowing how much you would have to give up for Aaron Rodgers in draft capital, would you find it worth it? And I only say this because, and I know this was just something I saw online, and the person who proposed it is an obvious Packers fan. but he said,
what did he propose?
He goes, oh, no, this was even worse. He goes, okay. He goes, trade Aaron Rodgers to the Seahawks. He goes, Seahawks get Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb. He goes, Packers get DK Metcalf, Tariq Woolen, and 2 first-round picks, one in 2024 and one in 2025. And he goes, who says no? And all the Seahawks fans were like, everyone? No one is going to accept that trade. I'm just curious your thoughts based on what Packers management has said. And also, Aaron Rodgers, phenomenal, but he is getting up there in age. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you already dealt with a quarterback who was legendary and who was nearing the end of his career. And it was a will he or won't he come back? Would that be worth it to bring him to New York? Would you be willing to deal with that?
I don't know. I want to say my heart says yes, but my head says no. And my head says no based on age.
Yeah.
He's going to be 39 years old. And the Jets offensive line has been patchwork at best over the last half decade. So they need to, the biggest part before they go searching for a quarterback, they need to figure out who their OC is, who their line coach is, and who their wide receiver coach is. Because those are the 3 positions the Jets should be looking at replacing right now. It's not going to matter who your quarterback is if they don't know who the offensive coordinator is going to be, and we got to see what kind of style they want to incorporate into the offense next year.
Yeah,
I know it's going to be run heavy because Breece Hall's coming back, and he's going to be healthy. He's going to be healthy again. Granted, it won't be, I don't think it'll be the Brees Hall we saw in the first 6 weeks of the season last year. It's going to take him we saw what happened with Saquon Barkley after he tore his ACL.
Yes. It's
going to take time to really have a kind of a beast mode season that Barkley had. But I want to see who they fill in as offensive coordinator first, because that's going to be the biggest indicator of who they're going to try to bring in as their quarterback. I'm praying to God it's not Greg Roman. I'm praying to God it's not Greg Roman, because I've seen this movie before with an offensive coordinator named Chan Gailey.
Yeah.
That's who he reminds me of. He doesn't develop quarterbacks. The first season of his offensive system, it's awesome. It's great. They run up and down the field. They chew up yards. They keep the possession of the clock. They keep the possession. They run the clock down. But after that season, it's predictable. So it becomes also predictable, like Chan Gailey in 2015, after he helped transform Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015. The year after was not so magical.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to depend on, I think it's going to depend on who the offensive coordinator is. If they bring in a guy like Nathaniel Hackett, apparently he's the front runner for the position right now. Okay, then they might consider bringing Aaron Rodgers in.
Yeah, because
if they consider a guy if they interview Greg Roman, God forbid, they might bring in Lamar Jackson. I have big concerns about him. But they bring in anybody else, I think they'll trade for Derek Carr.
To me, Derek Carr seems like the best fit for the Jets. I don't know why, but it just is one of those things where it seems like it makes total sense to me. And Derek Carr, it's not like he's dealt with a whole lot of coaching stability in Oakland / Las Vegas. So he could easily, onboarding a new scheme is nothing new for Derek Carr. So, he could learn quick, and is Derek Carr 32 years old? Is that,
I believe he is. Yes.
I got to look it up, but that to me, I mean, you got almost 7 years age difference between Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers then.
Yeah. And you could argue the same about Lamar Jackson because he's only 25. But I think Jackson's staying put in Baltimore. To be honest with you, I think he's staying put. I think they're going to try to figure out a way to give him more flexibility and freedom as a quarterback in the new system of whoever they bring in as offensive coordinator. So that's just my feeling.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of all this, I think the quarterback the Jets are going to probably pick up is Derek Carr. But again, it's all predicated on who they bring in as an OC.
All right.
So on that note, we're going to wrap up the show. So before we wrap it up here, Dustin, if you have anything more to add, just let me know. But in the meantime, if you go to our social media channels, which are, if you're watching, listed down below, they're at Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at NoCredsREQ, Facebook.com/NoCredsREQ, and on YouTube, it's YouTube.com/NoCredsREQ. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you know when we go live. On the podcast side, if you're listening on audio, subscribe to the podcast. Megaphone is our home, but you also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you could be so kind to rate, 5 stars is preferred, and review, we might even read it on the air. For everyone who's been watching and commenting, we appreciate your joining along. If you're watching on replay on YouTube or Facebook, we also appreciate you. Dustin, you have anything more to add before we wrap up tonight?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered a lot. Give me a tweet if you want to at LDusto67. Follow me on Instagram. Don't post much, but you'll know when the show hits live. That's for sure.
All right. And you can follow me personally at whoisRyanMCC on Twitter and Instagram. But in the meantime, thank you for watching and or listening to No Credentials Required, where you don't need a press pass to talk sports. We're presented by Belly Up Sports in association with Godzilla Media. For my broadcast partner, Dustin Henry. I'm Ryan McCarthy. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again live on Friday where we preview the conference championship games. It's going to be a fun time. Hope you join us.
Tune in. Night, everybody.